All right, I think I'm here. Double check my audio. All right, good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. I am First Alert meteorologist Jake Lambright, and of course, we've got the chance for a few isolated storms overnight tonight. That means many will not see rain or severe weather. We'll talk a little bit more about what those that do see a strong storm can expect, and then, of course, tomorrow during the day on Saturday is when many of us are going to be dealing with that widespread storm threat across much of the Arklatex. So let's go ahead and dive right in. You'll notice here, First Alert radar showing everything very quiet in the Arklatex. The only exception is a couple of light to moderate rain showers. I'll zoom in on these here briefly in southern Sabine and southern Natchitoches Parish. Here's what I'm talking about when I've been saying isolated here these past couple of days. And I do want to move something real quick, make it a little easier for me to work with. There we go. So here's what I want to highlight. These little, again, light to moderate rain showers. That's southern Sabine and southern Natchitoches Parish. Otherwise, the rest of us, pretty quiet for now. I do want to zoom it back out, though, and take a full look across the Arklatex, because whenever I do that, you will notice some isolated storm development just off to our west and northwest. And this is what I'm going to be watching the closest as we go through the next couple of hours. I really think until midnight or so, things will continue to stay very quiet, even for those north of I-30 tonight in the Arklatex. Afterwards, though, that's where things will likely start to shift and get a little more active. This is beyond the Arklatex and beyond, again, really beyond our area. Let me zoom in, though, to what's closest to us right now. South of McAllister there in Oklahoma, there's a severe thunderstorm. I'll pull the info on that. Likely warned due to hail at the minimum. Looks like $half size hail and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That's the kind of stuff we can expect mainly north of I-30 tonight, but while the risk is lower, it's not zero all the way down to I-20. So again, we'll have to keep tabs on that very closely. That storm, let me pull out my little distance tool. That storm is about 60 miles away from McCurtain County, and this is moving off to the northeast. So that storm that I just pointed out, the one that's warned there on your screen beyond the Arklatex, won't have any kind of an impact on us directly. But again, as far as closest in proximity to us, that one about 60 miles away, and we're continuing to see isolated storms trying to develop there in Texoma right along the Red River. Things out toward east of the Oklahoma City metro and out toward Tulsa today have been very, very active. I can't tell you how many tornado warnings they've dealt with, and even confirmed tornadoes. I'm curious to see if this one is confirmed just out of curiosity, and it looks like that's still radar indicated. But again, not going to spend much time there. That is well beyond the Arklatex. That will not impact us. Again, what I'm watching the closest is for storm development in this general area that could impact areas near north of I-30 tonight. And latest trends have actually indicated that could be, we could see storms try to develop as far south as the I-20 corridor. So now that we've talked about that, here's the latest severe weather outlook. This has really not changed at all throughout the day today. It still has a level 3 enhanced risk for extreme northern Red River County right there on the river and parts of McCurtain County in Oklahoma. The area that I circled there that's within the Arklatex, that is a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk. As you get further south, Mount Pleasant, Texarkana, and areas north are under a slight risk, which is level 2 out of 5. And then those shaded in green, Longview, Marshall, Jefferson, Atlanta, Texas, Henderson, Carthage, Shreveport, Bossier, out toward Benton, as well as Minden, and even extreme northern parts of, I believe that's Bienville Parish, are under a marginal risk, which is a level 1 out of 5, that lighter green shading. So again, what that means, if we see a strong or severe storm in that marginal risk area, it could be just as strong as what we see in the enhanced risk area. But that marginal risk just means the chance of us seeing a strong storm in that area is much lower. We're streaming right now out to our KSLA News 12 Now app, Roku, Fire, Apple TV. Just search KSLA. It's a free download. I encourage you to watch us there. We're also streaming out to social media right now, Facebook, YouTube. Those are the platforms we're on. So I'll be looking at questions from our news page and our weather page here in just a moment. I'm going to keep talking a little bit more about the timing and whatnot, and then I'll take a break in between Friday night and Saturday. I'll answer some of your questions, and then we'll dive right into Saturday's timing and Saturday's potential. All right, here's a look. And I do already see a question if I used to be at KLB, and yes, I did used to be at KLB. Now I'm here at KSLA covering the Arklatex area. All right, let's take a look. Severe threats tonight. Again, those near and north of I-30 have the elevated tornado potential. For those shaded in this kind of darker shading, I'm going to circle here. Let me actually redo that. Near north of I-30 against the elevated risk, this kind of darker shading that you see here out through the Shreveport-Bossier area, that is a very low risk for tornadoes tonight. You'll see that risk in the same areas as low for hail, also low for winds. Elevated threats all across the board, tornado, hail, and winds near and north of I-30 overnight tonight, basically just meaning that the likelihood of seeing a strong storm or two capable of producing those threats is a bit higher. Let me go back to our timing as we go through the rest of the night tonight. Things, again, staying quiet until probably midnight at the earliest, and then those storms really start to fill in around 1 to 3 a.m. And as I mentioned, you could see storms trying to develop possibly as far south as the I-20 corridor. Here's a look at things closer to 3 a.m. Isolated storms kind of continue on. I know I left a bit of a gap there. There's 5 a.m., still looking at isolated storms, and then as we head closer to sunrise on Saturday morning, that's when we've got the line of storms moving into the Arklatex. All right, bear with me here for just a second. I am going to take a look at some of the comments in our comment sections, and I've got to take a look at multiple. So again, bear with me here for just a second. It's going to take a little bit just to make sure that I'm answering all of your questions before we dive into Saturday's timing and Saturday's storm threat. So right now I'm not seeing anything on that page. Got a third one to look at here. Trying something new where we're putting the same live stream out across more of our nets in an effort to kind of reach more of y'all. All right. It's not seeing anything there either. I see Rebecca's asking about Oak Grove, Louisiana. Your severe weather threat tomorrow is going to be a bit lower. Tonight, I'm not too concerned about severe weather. I see Heather's traveling from Shreveport to Joplin right now. Yes, pay close attention for sure. You're around to Queen right now. Depending on the route that you go, you might be able to dodge a lot of it. I see Michelle joining from Texarkana this evening, one of the spots where we do have a higher threat for the overnight hours tonight. All right, I'm going to make the map here full screen for just a moment while I take a look at some other comments here. I got one more section to look at. I do see a couple of my KLB viewers joining the live as well. Y'all do have more of an elevated threat tomorrow for some winds and maybe some hail. All right, so now let's dive right on into your Saturday timing and potential. We'll start off with a look at Saturday's severe weather outlook. You'll notice more of the Arklatex is included in a slight risk for severe weather. That is a level 2 out of 5 on the severity scale. And again, that extends from Texarkana south. Again, that's going to be during the day tomorrow. I'm going to adjust my camera here real quick. Looks like we're all good there. But all right, again, looking at that level 2 slight risk for tomorrow. When it comes to threats, the tornado risk for those shaded in kind of this darker brown, I'll point it out here in just a second. If you're in this color shading that you see here for Panola, Shelby, St. Augustine, Sabine County in Texas, and then out toward northwest Louisiana, that is where we have a very low potential for tornadoes. It's not 0, but it does stay on the lower side. What we'll have to watch out for a little closer tomorrow will be damaging winds up to 60, maybe 65, 70 miles per hour. And then hail. I've got quarter size plus. I actually saw, and I got sent this post about 3 times in a 5-minute span. I saw a post earlier today floating around social media about chicken egg size hail. What does that mean, and are we going to see it in the Arklatex? Because I did see on that post that there were some little egg icons in the Arklatex. Whenever it comes to the hail potential tomorrow, we could see larger hail with some of these storms. In fact, those black dashes that you see there on the screen means that there's a possibility that we could see hail up to 2 inches in diameter, which is hen egg size. But I want you to pay attention to that keyword that I just said, up to. If we have a super strong storm tomorrow, that size hail is possible, but I don't expect for every storm tomorrow that we see to have hen egg size hail. Pay close attention to the weather tomorrow, of course, as those storms are moving through. Some of us will see small hail. There's the potential 1 or 2 locations could see larger hail. We're going to be here with you tracking the storms as they roll through the Arklatex. Again, the tornado threat tomorrow, Saturday, going to stay very low. It's not 0, though, for those shaded. Really, it's going to be the hail and wind threat that we'll be watching as the storms roll through tomorrow. All right, here's future track. First thing Saturday morning, this is 8 a.m. tomorrow, you'll notice that line of showers and storms moving through the northern part of the Arklatex, kind of right along the Red River there, west of Texarkana. As we get closer to noon, that line of storms is closer to the I-20 corridor, out toward Shreveport, Bossier, out toward Marshall. And then from there, these last few muddle runs are kind of showing or indicating that this line may break up, which is a possibility, not necessarily a certainty. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're all done with rain and storms. As we get later on into the afternoon and later on into the evening, that's when my focus is really going to shift south of the I-20 corridor, those areas that didn't see that widespread rain and storm activity earlier on in the day, because that's where our storm or our overall atmosphere won't be as drained of its energy, because we won't have had as much rain and storms to deplete that energy. That area that I kind of circled there would be the area I'm a little more focused on closer to dinner time tomorrow. That's where I think we've got the better chance at potentially seeing a storm that produces some larger hail, just because these storms are a little more isolated to scattered in nature, and they're going to be in an environment where if, and that's the key word, if that line breaks up around I-20 just south, that's going to be where we have the most potent environment heading into tomorrow evening. From there, let's fast forward that timeline a little bit further. There's 8 o'clock. You'll notice still a couple of isolated scattered storms across our extreme southern counties and parishes. Even out towards Shreveport, you'll see Future Track trying to put another isolated storm or two there. Of course, if it becomes severe, that chance is really only there if the atmosphere is able to recover enough that far north. And I know I'm saying a bunch of fancy stuff. The bottom line is north of I-20, our threat hopefully wraps up early afternoon tomorrow, but south of the interstate, we'll have to keep a closer eye, of course, on what's going on with our environment, and of course, if that line is able to hold together or if it breaks up. Of course, we've got to talk about the flood risk tomorrow, too. Tomorrow's where we've got the better chance for flooding across more of the Arklatex. We've got a slight risk, which is a level 2 out of 4 on our flood risk scale. All of those counties and parishes you see there shaded in yellow, again, looking at that elevated flood potential as we head into the day tomorrow. Let me actually go back here, or we'll put this up here for just a second, the rainfall potential for the next 7 days. Once we add up this weekend's rain with next week's rain, we're talking a good 4 to 7 inches possibly of rain across the Arklatex. It is some much needed rain, that is for sure. But again, with it coming, a lot of it this weekend, and then another batch middle of next week, we could see some localized flooding issues. All right, I do want to pull up our 3-day rainfall forecast. This will cover us through the weekend, and you'll notice anywhere from about 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches of rain in some spots from this weekend's rain alone. I do want to bring to your attention real quick, we'll take a look at some drought data, and I'll, of course, go back to your questions here in just a moment. I do not like it when this updates on me. It makes it a little bit of a mess. So let's clean this up and just highlight Wednesday's outlook. So next Wednesday, there we go. Next Wednesday, much of the Arklatex is already highlighted in a slight risk for severe weather. That is a level, of course, 2 out of 5 on the scale. We're still a little bit beyond the window where we can really get into fine-tuning this forecast for you. And also, we've got the threat of isolated storms tonight. We've got the threat of widespread storms tomorrow. So I want to get us through that. And then, of course, we'll be focusing in a little bit closer on that Wednesday threat once we get past some of these other storms. All right, I'm going to put radar back on the screen for just a moment and actually put it full screen while I answer some of your weather questions. So again, bear with me for just a second. Some of these I'll have to read off to the side. Some of them I'll be able to pull up on the screen. So if you've got questions, I'm going to be sticking here with you for a minute. So feel free to go ahead and ask those in our comment section. Also seeing if let's try this again. Trying to work with our little tool that'll allow me to put some of your questions up on the screen. May just have to do without. I'm going to start looking through some of these. I see Kimberly asking what time is rain coming to Shreveport. We might see a stray storm tonight. That would be between midnight and 4 a.m. likely, but the widespread rain comes closer to mid to late morning tomorrow and the early afternoon. So really, the time Shreveport, where we've got the best chance at seeing storms, will be between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. tomorrow. So it doesn't look like I'll be able to get some of those questions on the screen. I'll pop myself back up here for just a moment. Actually, let me make that full screen for you. I want to work on getting a quick live update out to one of our other platforms, which may take me just a second. Of course, I'm also looking at your question. Lee is asking about Union County in Arkansas. You've got the chance to see some isolated showers and storms overnight tonight. Your better chance for rain will be tomorrow, though. And we'll go back and take a look at that in just a moment. Brianna saying, missed talking about Texarkana for tonight's threat. When can we expect to see something here? I really think things are going to hold off until after midnight tonight. I'll pop future track up on the screen so you can see it a little bit better. There's a look at things tonight. That'll be around 11:30, midnight or so, and then you'll notice, let me actually put a stop there about 2 a.m. That's, as you can see, that's when that isolated storm activity really starts to pick up. It kind of continue on mainly midnight to 6 a.m. And then you've got a little bit of a window or a little bit of a break before that main line of storm starts to come on in early Saturday. And again, I'll walk through both Friday night and Saturday timing here in just a moment. So again, kind of stay with me here for just a second on that. Working on getting us on one more platform. So I'm still here with you. We're going to go through this one more time. And, of course, I'll have another weather update for you coming up tonight at 10 over on KSLA. Make sure our audio is going out to where it needs to. Should be all good there. All right. So, again, sticking with you here for just a second, and we will go through this one more time for those of you just joining. I know some are popping in. I do want to check our other comment sections as well. Teresa's asking, the threat for tornadoes is low tonight. North of I-30, it's a more elevated threat, but Saturday, with that main line of storms, the tornado threat is not zero, but it is a bit lower compared to tonight. Tornado risk in Shreveport tonight stays pretty low. Minden tonight, we could see the potential for a stray storm or two, but more than likely it will stay to your north. Shreveport's tornado potential tomorrow on Saturday will stay on the lower side. All right, I'm making that map for you full screen one more time while I work to get us out on that last platform. So bear with me here for just a moment. And great, looks like our sound there is working. And all right. So sorry about that. Wanted to get us on one more platform just as I kind of recap what's going on. Looks like we're live there. So now we're streaming out to everything. Let me get this back. There we go. All right, I will do one more run through on questions here in just a moment, but for those of you just joining, I do want to remind you all that tonight and tomorrow is a first alert weather day. Really, the threat tonight is staying near and north of the I-30 corridor. We could see a stray severe storm as far south as I-20, though. Even that marginal risk, that just means that the chance of seeing a strong or severe storm is lower. It doesn't necessarily mean that we won't see anything. So here's a look right now, current radar as of about 9:45, 9:50. And the Arklatex itself is very, very quiet. We've got a couple sprinkles right now across southern Sabine, southern Natchitoches Parish, and even some moderate to heavy rain in eastern Vernon and western Rapides Parish just outside of the KSLA viewing area. Even that is not severe right now. Let's reset the view, go back out to the Arklatex, and I'll show you what I'm watching and kind of what's developing as we speak. There have been a few storms that have tried to develop in East Texas, north central Texas, I should say, out toward Dallas. So far, they've not been able to sustain themselves for very long. I would have to double check some things before the 10 o'clock show, but if I had to guess, our environment out that way is pretty capped, so storms are struggling. Where they're not struggling is eastern Oklahoma, and again, McCurtain County here in the Arklatex, as well as some additional East Texas counties out toward Red River, Bowie. Those are going to be the ones, of course, to watch close, or the closest, even all the way out to parts of the I-30 corridor. Things have been very active, though, in eastern Oklahoma, especially the Tulsa area. There's an isolated storm out there south of McAllister, Oklahoma, that's been producing some hail and strong winds. And notice, if we see strong to severe storms tonight, they will be very isolated like this. Notice how that one little severe storm is impacting such a small area, such a small portion of one Oklahoma county. That's the kind of severe weather we're talking about tonight. Tonight is not going to be that widespread line of storms like what we'll see tomorrow. Again, it stays very isolated. But if we see those one stray storm move in that's able to strengthen, we could see a strong storm or two, mainly along and south of I-30. But again, that threat is there as far south as the I-20 corridor. Let's talk let's talk threats real quick. Again, elevated threats, tornado, hail, and wind, all three elevated north of I-30 tonight. The rest of us looking at low threats, I-20 and north tonight. So let's walk through the timing. I expect things in the Arklatex to be very, very quiet until midnight and beyond. It's really going to be that midnight to 5 a.m. window where we have the best chance at seeing a stray storm or two. If you can, I would try to get some sleep tonight. I'll actually show you here in just a minute how you can enable alerts on the First Alert weather app where you'll be notified if there's severe weather without getting all your other notifications and text messages. But again, be able to get those alerts so you can take shelter if needed in your location. You'll notice midnight and beyond, that's where things start to pick up as far as isolated storms go. That's a look at things around 1, 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then from there, storm activity starts to pick up a little bit more by 3 to 4 a.m. Again, very isolated in nature and continues on until about 5, 6 a.m. heading into tomorrow morning. From there, there's a little bit of a break in the isolated storm activity, but not long, maybe an hour or two tops. Then we've got the main line of storms coming in for Saturday, which we'll talk about more here in just a second. Here's a look at that Saturday severe weather outlook. We've got more of a severe weather threat across more of the Arklatex. Again, that's a level 2 out of 5, slight risk that you see there, shaded in yellow across much of the Arklatex. Going to check something here on my end. The threats tomorrow do shift, though, and I'll pull those up on the screen for you. You'll notice that the tornado threat tomorrow actually stays on the lower side. Very, very low for those shaded in that kind of darkish brown color. Otherwise, the hail threat will stay a bit on the elevated side, and I really think the elevated hail threat likely stays just south of I-20, and the wind threat also staying elevated across that slight risk area as well. All right, let's talk timing for your Saturday morning storms. Again, if you're north of I-30, these storms are knocking on your door first thing tomorrow morning. 7 to 8 a.m. is when I'm expecting those stronger storms to enter the Arklatex. Now, once you get south of I-30 or near and south of I-30, about 10 a.m. to noon is when those storms arrive. They get closer to Shreveport-Bossier by lunchtime or just after at the latest tomorrow. But here's what Future Track has been showing the last couple of trends, and this is an interesting trend and something to watch for sure as we head into Saturday afternoon. Notice from noon to 3, that line really kind of breaks up across the Arklatex. What does that mean? Well, watch what happens as we get closer to dinner time. You'll notice some potentially stronger isolated to scattered storms trying to develop. And south of I-20, if that line breaks up, which is what it's showing, that means that our storm environment would be untapped. That means we've got more storm energy, more energy for these storms to tap into, potentially become strong to severe. And that's where I think if this scenario were to play out as it shows, we're going to have a better threat for larger hail tomorrow, possibly a brief spin-up tornado kind of in those areas south of I-20. So it'll be something to monitor. With these isolated setups, tonight is a perfect example, and even yesterday or a couple days ago, Wednesday it was, whenever we had the isolated storm threat, models did a terrible job with that. We did see an isolated tornado warning in the Arklatex Wednesday, but models and guidance, that's what it is. It is model guidance. It did not have the best handle as to what was going on across our area. So again, the flood risk is going to be highest on Saturday across more of the Arklatex. It's still on the lower end. It's a slight risk, level 2 out of 4 on the flood risk scale. And here's why. I mean, over the weekend, we could see anywhere from 1 to 3 inches across the Arklatex. Looks like we just got some new information in. A tornado watch is going to be in place until 4 a.m. for parts of the Arklatex. Let me see if I can pull any kind of info on that. Usually I'll get a notification with the heads up, but it looks like this one kind of came down as a surprise. So give me just a second. I've got a way where I can pull some info here. Wouldn't show up on our maps just yet, but again, this just in. We've got a tornado watch impacting parts of the Arklatex till 4 a.m. tomorrow. Again, I'm working to get that information in parts of Arkansas and Oklahoma outline. So for us in the Arklatex, it doesn't look like this even includes McCurtain, so this might be trimmed out for parts of our area. So yes, I'm not sure why I got notified about that then. So sorry about that. I got a notification saying that this was impacting parts of our viewing area, and it turns out that was not the case. So I do apologize for that again. Maybe that's staying just outside of the Arklatex. We'll wait and see here. But again, no active tornado watch on that. I've got to run. We've got our 10 o'clock newscast coming up here in 5 minutes. do a quick check. Dangerfield, you've got the potential to see a strong storm or two overnight tonight. But I've got to go ahead and hop off of our streams. I'll see you on the air at 10 o'clock. You can watch on your Roku, Fire, or Apple TV device.